Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is set to introduce many different revelations that will lead to saga-wide implications in this story by writer and director J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, by far, one of the most interesting aspects of this film, from what it seems, is of course exactly how Luke is going to be utilized by J.J., George Lucas, and Chris himself, and exactly how Mark Hamill is going to portray the character, in both the form of a Force ghost and of course in the form of flashbacks in Episode 9. Now, what's really exciting about this film is that we do know that there will be many different elements that will be added into the Star Wars franchise that will change how we view the past 8 Star Wars movies. Now, these past couple of weeks or so, we've been learning a whole lot more about this film, and when it all comes down to one of the set leaks, this is where things begin to get very intense for Episode 9. Now, specifically, what's really exciting about all of this is that one of the set leaks actually entails. It's described that one of the scenes that were filmed during the month of January involved Mark Hamill on set over at Cardington, where it's described that George Lucas was on set to watch over the scene and direct some of the shots with JJ and Chris. It said that Mark Hamill was wearing CGI trackers on his face, where de-aging technology is said to be applied to turn a 67-year-old Mark Hamill into his mid-30s, giving the fans a roughly 35-year-old Luke Skywalker in the form of a flashback that would take place around 12 years after the events of Episode 6, revealing a young but slightly older Luke than his 23-year-old self in Episode 6. The sequence is also said to involve a de-aged Carrie Fisher sitting in front of Luke where Mark Hamill was instructed to act in front of a green screen, where the Carrie Fisher footage would be digitally inserted in post. It's described to be a scene where Luke is holding a large, thick book that is said to hold many legends of the Wills, where Luke explains the Force to his sister, as well as the godlike beings that call themselves the Wills, that watch over all of the events of the Star Wars franchise. So let's go over a couple of parts about this. Now, this without a doubt ties directly into what we went over about a month ago, give or take, about there being a training session between both Luke and Leia in their 30s. Now, this is really interesting because this is the moment in which Luke is trying to bring Leia into the Jedi Order. He's trying to make her become a Jedi. And if you guys read the book, I don't know if you guys did, by Claudia Gray, Bloodline, Leia does explain why she didn't really become a Jedi, and a lot of people always ask her, why you didn't become like your brother, and all these different questions. And now in Episode 9, what's really interesting about this is that this flashback is said to provide a actual flashback of a young Luke Skywalker and Leia, basically giving us the Luke and Leia that we all know and love in Episode 6, just making them a tad bit older. Not significantly, but just a tad bit older, to where they appear more wise and more in tune with the galaxy. Now, this is said to be a moment in which Luke Skywalker, portrayed by Mark Hamill, of course, is holding a large, thick book that is said to contain many legends of the Wills that Luke Skywalker is talking about to Leia, and he's also teaching her about the Force. Now, does this necessarily mean that Leia is going to become a Jedi in the past that we never learned about? I highly doubt that. This most likely is just trying to show the fans that there was more to Luke and Leia than what we saw in between the events of Episode 6 and Episode 7. Once Luke Skywalker disappeared years later. So now we're getting a moment that takes place roughly 12 years after the events of course, Episode 6, giving us a mid-30s Luke Skywalker many years after the events of Return of the Jedi, reading the Book of the Wills, or the Book of the Legends of the Wills, whatever have you, to Leia and informing her about the Force and the Jedi itself. Now, what I like about this is that it really does make one a little bit mystified and mind-boggled as to how they're really going to create dialogue for Leia. That's a big, thing that they're going to have to troubleshoot. I'm sure they're going to have to bring in some kind of voice actor or some kind of actress that's going to be able to do certain angles or shots that sounds like Carrie Fisher to actually talk with Mark Hamill as a young Luke Skywalker to really make it seem seamless and authentic and just tangible to the audience. And I think once they get that going and once they get that ball rolling, it's really going to seem like it's going to fit into the Star Wars franchise within this film. So, though it does sound very interesting, I will say that this is definitely going to set up exactly why Leia never became a Jedi visually on the big screen, pretty much letting all of the casual fans and new fans alike understanding exactly what happened between both Luke and Leia. Now, this is also said to be a moment before Luke actually met Lor San Tekka and went on many of the different missions that he went on with R2-D2, etc. So we're going to be learning more and more about this as we go along, and in Episode 9, J.J. Abrams really wants to focus on not just the legend of Luke Skywalker and where he's been, and Luke Skywalker in the forms of flashbacks, but he also wants to do something very special for Luke in the form of a Force ghost that's going to be very different than how Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Yoda appeared. Anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again. No.